Well, back at it, we got another container Ardex in. Like what I'm going to do, originally I was just going to get everything, coated. And then it occurred to me that I still have to cut out for niches, right? So we got a little deep on that one corner. All I did is make a slot where I know that it's going to be empty so I can see top and bottom. So we're kind of close. Actually, we're really close to the top there. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. But yeah, we'll make it work out. Either way, that shampoo bottle is 12 inches that I want to be able to fit on that one. And 6 of these with spacers is 12. So I'm going to go 13 deep on the niche, 13 tiles deep. And what I want to do is figure out, where the bottom's going to line up so it lines up with the grout lines and lines up with that trim that we got. We don't have to cut tiles. We want it to look nice and clean. So what I might do is go back and look at the video where I did the pan, see how much I mixed up, because there's 2 batches of, I want to say 12 ounces each. So it might have been 24 full ounces of material to cover this entire pan with one coat. But it also needed to kind of interact with the fleece and stuff, so this might go on thinner. And if it does go on thinner and I have extra left over, we just start working our way up this wall because this doesn't get anything cut into it. But more important, once we have a second coat on this, we can flood test it. And once it's flood tested and I'm happy with it, we can put the floor tile down. Because I want the floor tile down because then I can measure, how many tiles up to the bottom of that niche, right? Using spacers and stuff like that. I'll just start putting a couple on. Not permanently, I'll just stack them up by hand. Yeah, then we can find out where our bottom mark is, cut out our hole, and put our niche in. Well, because once that bottom niche is in, we can go tile lengths off the top to find where the next one goes. And once those 2 are in, then we can get a coating of Ardex over them after they're installed as well. I'd also like to use the Ardex on the banding in the niches, when those get put in as well. So there's a whole list of things that we're going to end up splitting this new set into a bunch of parts. And I think that first part is get this down and flood tested so we can move on. Okay, so we're going with 24 ounces liquid and then 24 ounces right by volume, right? I doubt this weighs 24 ounces. Just using it as a 1-to-1 measurement. And we'll get this mixed up and spread on. I think I'm going to thin it a little more than last time. I'm also going to mix it longer. The last time there were a couple chunkies. They just felt kind of thick. And it got, you can see the texture a little better up close, right? It's got these thick ridges along it. And I went over with the sander. You can see a couple spots where there were some really high spots. And I just took some 80 grit and knocked them down. But here it came through on this high edge. So that's okay. It's going to get a big piece over it. But especially up there, it got kind of thick too. So yeah, you can kind of sand it down. Now, I'll put it on a little thinner. What I think I'm going to do is I left this one intact so that it's with his buddy. And then this is the leftover from last time. So I'll probably pour a little bit more of that in here after I mix it. Try to get it a little thinner. And I'll put it in, I don't know, maybe an ounce at a time and let you guys know so we have exactly how much I used. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. It holds its shape still, right? It's got still has a little bit of tension to it, but not nearly as much. It drips a little better. And when I was mixing it, little bubbles that formed from the paddle were popping and going away a lot faster. What I did is I added 2 more ounces of the liquid. So this is using the measurement on the side of the cup, not by weight, 24 ounces of the powder and 26 ounces of liquid. So we'll see how it goes on, how I feel about it once we brush it. I'm also not going to bother rolling the pan. I'm going to brush the whole thing so I don't get these little ridges from the roller. I think probably what I need is a smaller nap or maybe a foam roller. So we'll pick those up when we do the wall and see how it turns out. So I was able to use up all my material. It's getting, starting to stiffen up at the end like before. It was about a half an hour on that one, so maybe a bigger batch, and I mixed it a little more thoroughly. Let it last longer than like the 20-25 minutes I was getting last time. Could be temperature and humidity related too, who knows. Either way, I'm really happy with how it's coming out. It covered well, probably because we mixed it a little thinner, even though it was about the same amount total of material, maybe even a little less. It went a little further, so I was able to get beginning of a coat up the wall. It was really difficult to reach around this without touching it. So I decided to just go for this edge because that was the minimum amount of stuff. Like I started dripping, getting drips of sweat on it, and it's a water base, right? It's acrylic, so even though it's got the Portland cement in it, and it's going to cure up with the moisture, you don't necessarily want big drops of sweat on it either. So I tried to spread those out with the brush a little bit, best I could. I can't even tell where they were. Oh, right there, it's kind of shiny. It's a big drop of sweat, Probably be okay. Either way, this should be ready to flood test in 4 hours. I'll be at work, so won't be able to do it now, but I'd like to do it tonight when I get home. My wife will be asleep, but I'll just warn her, let her know that I'm going to come in here with a 5-gallon bucket of water and a plug and pour it on the floor. That way I can just kind of like hang out for an hour or two, make sure there isn't some kind of catastrophic leak. And then when I wake up in the morning, check and see if anything's been seeping through. Because really, if water comes through, it's not like we're going to be worse off, right? That's how we got here in the first place. So yeah, looks like whatever. So these are going to be 128 ounces. And if I'm using essentially 24 at a time, we'll have at least 4 more mixes, right? So I don't think we're going to be able to go all the way to the ceiling with it. I think that we're going to, I think we're going to run out. Because I would bet the next, you're looking at, for the same amount as the pan, if you just, right up the wall. So one batch should get us up to like here on this wall, right? And then the second batch will finish that coat. So maybe like nipple height. And then on this wall, it's skinnier. So opposite, right? We might be able to get up to like here. But what I'd like to do is guarantee that those 2 areas where the stuff comes through is completely covered, and the niches get completely covered. So yeah, I think the main focus then will be get the floor down at a minimum a row, right? So we can dry fit our tile, thin set in, make a tiny batch of thin set and put 1 row in. That way it's easier to clean up junk if we dribble all over, because I did get lots of little blops. Bloop, bloop, they fall down as I'm brushing it on, and you just scoop them back up, but I don't want to have to scoop back up off of our tile. Like even if I have a piece of cardboard over it, well, it's high enough up, what you do is you put the cardboard down and you tape it to the wall just to make sure none gets through the gaps, because I don't want to have to clean this off tile. So that'll be the way then. So we'll need to do our flood test. We need to dry fit tile with the drain, have it all cut and ready to go in an order, and then we just do the one edge of it, or we do the whole edge and we put cardboard on. Yeah. If that's the worst decision I have to make this week, I'll be okay with that. But really, I want the height here correct so we can get the niches correct, because this track I think is set up for a 16th inch grout line, and we're doing 1/8 inch. So see if it's got, it's tall, but it's got a little lip right there, right? And the tile sits against that lip and leaves a 16th of an inch gap. So really, we're going to be, we can probably shoehorn one. Oh, let's see. I can probably use our little gap thingies on that. So like if the tile's going to sit in here, and that's a 16th of an inch, and we want an 1/8. Oh, these are kind of angled. So yeah, if I put that to the back, that's cumbersome and difficult to do. Maybe it won't be on the wall. Maybe it'll be easy because it'll sit up and it'll be flat. We'll see when we get to it. But the bottom line is that if, we're not going to go narrower than a 16th. And I'd like to have an 1/8 everywhere so it looks even. So we'll line the grout line up. And if the grout line is lined up correctly when we do the niches, then that banding, that trim should just be an 1/8, right? The bottom of the trim should line up with the next row of tile, and it'll be even and perfect anyway. Yep. that's still up there filling. Figured I'd come downstairs and see if anything, horrible was going on, which there's not. I don't expect there to be either. I think with that Ardex down, that shower's gonna be pretty bulletproof. The first thing I did is pour a bucket down the drain to fill the trap, and just see if anything came out of the pipe joints, and we were fine on that mark as well. So when I get back upstairs and let that thing fill up, I'm gonna get it pretty close to the top of the curb and put a mark on the wall. I don't really see there being any issues, but that's why you test it. Just because you don't think there's going to be issues doesn't mean there won't be. So, yeah. Okay, well, it's full. It's right up in there. I gotta sand some of the moldy stuff off. I already sprayed it with bleach, but I still gotta do some manual labor. I don't see anything coming through yet, so we'll check on it periodically. Get up in there if I can over the next couple hours. Just see if it's doing what we expect it. Oh, look how much it pushed right through the bottom. Nice. Hopefully that means I've got good coverage. Yeah, we'll sleep on it, and I don't think I need to get something to separate these when I go to the store tomorrow. Maybe just put some insulation around it, but yeah, I'm not going to do a full 24 hours. I'd like to, but it's one of those where, I'm going to go to work at 1:45, and she won't be home until 6:30, 7 at night. And I don't want to have something catastrophic happen when I'm not here. That she would have to, all you have to do is pull the plug, right, if it hasn't all drained out into the floor. But either way, I think if tomorrow, by the time I need to leave for work, that's more than 12 hours from now. If it doesn't have anything coming through, we don't have anything to worry about. That's good enough for me. So here we are, next morning. It's been almost 9 hours so far. And the original plan was to pull it before I go to work, so it'd only be in here about 12 hours. I think a lot of people, like 24 to 72, they want this water in here a long time. Well, 72 hours, we're getting into evaporation where that line might move, right? You got a little mark over here at the water level. There's no moisture downstairs. And on top of that, the plumbing code in Michigan for a newly installed shower pan calls for 2 inches of water height at the edge of whatever your waterproof area is for 15 minutes. So we're well beyond the 15-minute requirement. I do kind of want to do 24 hours. I feel like that's more of an industry minimum among people that know what they're doing. So as someone that doesn't know what they're doing, I should at least follow in their steps. So the original plan today was to start getting some more Ardex on that wall, and I can start building the niches, right? I can build the lower one for sure. The upper one, I want to give it a second thought before I actually cut it out. But the lower one I can build and just kind of see what it's going to look like. I won't glue it together yet until we're actually going to install them, but I can get it cut and ready. Mostly because I don't want to risk having a whole tube of that glue set up after I open it. Right? I use a couple little squirts and then ruin the entire tube. I'd rather use a bunch of Kerdi fix all at once. So I actually got 3 tubes. I think I only needed 1. I don't know why I got so many, but either way, it's not like it's bad stuff. I'll find a use for it. Okay, just got home from work, so this is our 24-hour mark, and I don't see, well, what's that? There's water. There's water in that corner. Oh, motherfucker. Fuck. God damn it. Well, I'll have to see if we can see anything, how it's getting through up there. Looks like there's the controls. There's a support across that beam, so that's not even... Oh, it's there too. So we got water there along that. Fuck. So it's only dripping there because that's a low spot, right? It looks dry on that side, and it looks super wet, like here. It's wet there. Okay, well, we'll have to get up there and see what we can see. This fucking sucks. So there's the mark, and you wouldn't be able to tell just off of the mark. Fuck. It's right here. A couple pinholes. So next morning, and here's those, actually 3 pinholes, right? Stayed up a little late stressing over it. You can see there's still a little water underneath the band. It pokes through when you push down on it. So, I don't know. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to continue thinking about this, kind of see what other people say. The other guy that tried this method that does tile for a living, actually, I sent him an email and he responded really fast. So that's exciting. I'm going to wait and see if he has any suggestions or thinks that any of it's salvageable before I tear it all out. So there's the big part of me that wants to see, like, what's going on under here if I peel this up. Because I did grab, while I was getting angry and stuff, I grabbed one of these. Which one was it? It was just this one. I just kind of peeled at it. And it was like, it's not really on this other side, right? So when we did the tile with the thin set, we did that test. Yeah, that must have been the one I grabbed a little bit. It peeled off fleece with it. And I would think if I used thin set, this would have done the same thing. And the guy that emailed me back, Isaac, mentioned this stuff might have skimmed over. I wasn't moving that slowly. I wasn't, I didn't put it down everywhere and then put the band down. It's like I put down this wall, then put the band down. I think if anything, I put it down too thin, right? I think I put this on so thin that all I did is squish the fleece up against it instead of it working its way into the fibers. So it's a sad, but I have other kind of thought too, because I was looking at my mark, right? And it's like, you can't tell. If I didn't have the sealing out, there's no way you'd be able to tell that this was leaking, right? So let me help visualize that. So coming back down here, almost everything's completely dried out on this side already. So I don't think we had anything. There's a little bit right there where the actual leak is, but I don't think we're gonna have any problems with water damage. What's this? So downstairs, everything's already dried out. That wasn't enough water that came through. That if I still had a ceiling in place, right, there's no way I would know the shower was leaking. No way at all. As you look at, I put that mark in, the water was still dead nuts at the bottom of the mark. That's how little water actually came through. And here we have half a quart, right? So half a quart of water is 2 cups. And then for you European types. Yeah, almost 500 milliliters, right? 450-ish, something like that. So 60 by 32 inch area, right? And then this thickness, this is a 64th of an inch, this feeler gauge is. So this water line would have had to drop, if this water line dropped a 64th of an inch, right? Look how thin that is. But if that's all it did is a 64th of an inch, that's half a quart of water. Like, that's a shit ton of water, right? So if I came home and had a visual difference at that line, there would have been water all over the first floor. Like, there would have been this much, right? It wouldn't have been wet boards, a little tiny drip. It would have been a flood. Yeah. So another note that Isaac mentioned was encouraging, that he said 15 hours is pretty good. So I feel good about that. So, yeah, so Isaac was super responsive, super helpful so far. Hopefully, what I'm hoping is that he's like, that's barely any water intrusion, just get another coat on it and you'll be fine. But I do wonder about how well if this pushed up, I mean, maybe it's okay. So, bottom line is we may have just bought Kerdi board, installed it improperly on a whim, and turned it into really expensive drywall, right? Because you can use the Ardex over drywall. There's a pinhole in it, sure, but if the Ardex people say, hey, that happens, good on you for flood testing it, give it 2 more coats. We give the pan 2 more coats, and we have a shower pan. It's still sloped correctly. No water. When I pulled this out, I didn't have standing water anywhere, right? The whole thing drained. My curves are level to the size I want. They're where I want them. So that may just be the case, is that we took a risk with the Kerdi product, not using it the way the manufacturer intended. And then on top of that, I think I did this stuff too thin. I think I should have applied it with the notch trowel that I bought and then pressed it in, and maybe that would have gotten in the fibers better. But I don't know. It seems to me like if I put stuff down and it pushes it out the sides, that it should still be okay. But maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe it should be even thicker. I don't. But it's a learning process. But for me, as long as I can get a second opinion from professionals, either from Ardex, if they email back and say to put more coats on and flood test it a second time, or from Isaac saying the same thing. I mean, if I get a message back from Isaac and he says, oh, if this was a job that I did, I would tear it out and do it again, then we may just tear it out and do it again, because I want it to be right. And it's